Hello folks and welcome. So I've been doing a couple of videos on this archiving and compressing with passwords. So I decided to do one also for Manjaro, and this is generally meant for new users, but certainly anyone can probably learn a trick or two. And I'm going to be talking about tar balls, tar files, and compression with passwords. So in either case, folks, welcome. I'm filming in 1920 by 1080, so adjust your YouTube player accordingly if necessary. And you can see my hardware here. So again, Xfce desktop. This is Linux for seniors. You're watching this on Linux for seniors. So this is just a watermark, so you should be able to see this circle a little bit smaller down here where the time and date is, right about where I'm circling. And if you want to subscribe, you can click that icon to subscribe. What do you find on Linux for Seniors? Over 260 videos on all kinds of tips and tricks. Linux is for any age, but the name of my channel is Linux for Seniors. If you don't see that circle there, then go find me on YouTube. Okay? Other than that, if you're already a subscriber, thank you and welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about the tools that are built into Thunar, your file manager. All right, I'm going to be talking about the tar tool, tape archive to do backups. I'll also talk about the same tool where you activate that to do compression with a little bit of privacy with passwords. All right. So anyways, our user for today is Man23, as in Manjaro. And it's just a made-up name, obviously. So I have lots of files and folders in here. And I also have one internal hard drive and an external USB stick. I believe that's formatted with FAT32. There's currently no files on it. I'm going to be using that for demo purposes. I also have a backup folder which is currently blank. So you may already have backup programs installed. Software that backs up your files. Personal files, system files. Sometimes those are separate categories, but I'm going to be using a tool that's already built into Thunar. Okay, I'm going to first use Control A. Control A just selects everything, minus, of course, the hidden stuff. So whatever is visible on the screen here. So I'm going to right-click on any one of these folders and talk about the Create Archive tool. Now, when you're using tar, it's a little deceiving. It looks like it's going to compress, but it's not. All right, so I'm going to change the name from Man23 to My Stuff. You can, of course, call it whatever you want. Now, if you're going to create these tar balls, or what I call a tar box, I would suggest putting a date on them. So today's date is 11/10, so 11/10 it is. And I will use also the year. So you can create many of these things, and what they're good for is in case you delete files, and I'll show you that example in a second. No other options. I'll talk a little bit about options a little bit later. Now that was done rather quickly, and you're thinking there's probably hardly any files. Well, let's take a peek. So that was 342 megabytes. In fact, threw a lot of files in the box in a hurry, didn't it? Yes, it did. So you can see them in here. So that's what's in the box. What's in the tar ball, as some folks call it. Now, tar has been around for ever since the Unix days. Tape archive is what that stands for. I'm going to take the tar box and throw it over here to keep for later. So I've been around computers for over 40 years, and inevitably I make a mistake by deleting files. And I'm sure that's never happened to any one of you. But I'm going to actually do this on purpose. So maybe you have some important photographs. Maybe they're photographs of the kids, grandkids, or a friend. Whatever is important to you, you inadvertently delete that. And then you go over to the trash can and you have a whole bunch of stuff in here and you're just trying to clean up and you don't notice what's in there and you empty the trash. And my one JPEG is now history. It's Casper, it's toast. It's not in here anymore. Well, since I made a backup with tar, it is in here. It's in the box. So when you're dealing with tar files, you don't have to extract everything. You can open up individual objects in here or individual files and folders and pull out what you need. In my case, I just want one JPEG because that's the one I deleted by accident. I'm going to cut that and throw that back into pictures. So this is just one example of why backups are important, but more importantly, using a tool that's already built into your file manager through NAR. All right, so I am going to go back in here. Sorry, I'm going to close that first and talk about using this as my guinea pig. So I have two folders and they do have a lot of stuff in them. Okay, you can probably see a whole bunch of files and folders in here, and 3 files. And I'll talk about also some things are not worth compressing and some things are. But I'm going to first stick with tar. So instead of using Control A, I'm just going to drag a line through these and right click on any one of them to create an archive. Now the tool says compress on it, which is deceiving. The tar actually does not compress, and I'll prove that to you in a second. So I'm going to just use the no options and just leave it at downloads and make a tar. And you can see it created this box rather quickly. It took those 5 items, tossed them in the box as a backup. All right, they're not compressed. I'm going to cut this and throw it on the stick. I believe this is formatted with FAT32. You know, you can format these sticks or thumb drives with any file formats, but if you do with FAT32, then you can possibly share these files with other systems besides besides Linux. In other words, if it's FAT32, you can probably open this on Microsoft and Macs. All right, well, let me go back and do the same thing here, but this time with compression. And then we're going to compare the files. All right, so I'm going to create another archive. This time I'm going to use zip. Zip has been around for a long time, and I'm going to call this one too. You can also find zip in Microsoft Windows and Macs also. All right, I'm going to create that. So this takes a little bit longer because it actually is compressing them. So however long this takes on your machine. Cut and paste. I'm going to do one more, and then we're going to compare apples to apples. All right, last pass. And this time I'm going to go to the opposite direction and pick .7z. And I'm probably going to end up renaming that because I neglected to look at the name. So what did I use on the last one? 2. So let's call that one 3. You can always rename these things. And cut and paste. All right, so let's go take a look at the size of tar first. All right, I'm just going to open the properties box up so you can see the raw bytes. 66, 918, 400. I'm going to go up to Man23 and right click on downloads just to give you a rough idea. All right, 66, 761. That actually grew in size. It's not really that noticeable, and it's really not worth talking about, but it's not compressed is what I'm getting at. This is the tar, this is the folder. The same one I just compressed into a tar. So that's 66918 and that's 66761. Again, really not much to talk about here. However, this is bigger, so hence it didn't compress. It actually was bigger. So let's look at all 3 of these things. So that's the tar. This will be the zip and the 7z. All right. So in raw bytes, we're talking 66, 18, 38 and change, and 29 and some change. So for the smallest box, it was 7Z. Is compression dead? No. Compression is still used out there on the internet. I'll give you an example of one. Do you watch Netflix or any other streaming services? I don't care if it's on your mobile devices, your Android, iPhones, or smart TVs, possibly even computers or tablets. It leaves Netflix servers in a compressed formats for speed through the internet, and then when it arrives on your unit, it decompresses so you can view it on your screens. So no, compression is not dead. The other thing people use compression for too is file transfer protocol, or FTP, to upload files, and they crunch them down with different kind of compression so they can get it across the internet faster to you, or back and forth. Some people actually use compression too when they're emailing stuff, especially if the file is fairly large and they want to crunch it down a little bit. All right, so tar does not compress. The zip does, and so does 7Z. I showed that example. Now, since I threw it on the stick, I can bring this on another computer. Let's say I have another Manjaro computer. Got 2 of them, got 3 of them. I can at least open the tar up on all 3, and I can share that PDF, for instance, with all 3 computers. If I just want the one item, I don't have to extract everything. I'll do the same with the JPEG. All right, so if that's all I needed, I close that. Then I can take the stick and throw it on the third Linux computer if I wanted to. Okay, so anyways, it's just a printer manual. I'll just resize that on the fly. I'm going to use Alt and F4 to close that web browser. It's just a little quicker. And I'm going to delete that. All right, do you have any need for a little bit of privacy? Okay, this is for home use. This is not industrial encryption or password hacking kind of stuff. We're talking maybe you're sharing this with your family members, the stick. Or maybe you are allowing them to use your computer, which in most cases I would recommend probably creating a new user so they don't get into your bookmarks on your web browsers or your personal folders. All right, with that said, we're just going to use a guinea pig, and more importantly, you can think about it any way you want. I'm going to password protect these 5 items. Right click, create archive. I'll use 7Z with another option called passwords. All right, so think about a password that if it's one of these things you're trying to keep the kids from viewing, some sensitive information, files, whatever it might be, then put a password on it. Now, the option to encrypt the file list is up to you, but since I have more than one object here, more than one file, I'm going to do that. I can also split this up in volumes, since I have the option here. You know, today's thumb drives are so big that most of the time we don't use this anymore. But there might be still some uses out there that you can think about. But I'm going to not talk about that anymore. But I just wanted to let you see that's an option. So I'm going to take the downloads, and what are we up to? Number 4, I think. All right. It's going to compress that with 7Z with the password and also encrypt the file list. What that is going to do, it's going to create another box. And it's not a tarball, but it's a compressed file. And when I try to open it, it'll ask for a password and will not allow me to see what's in the box until I give it the correct password. That's the sole purpose of doing what I'm doing. In other words, for a little bit of privacy. Whether you take this file and store it on your local computer or on your stick or an internal hard drive, that's all up to you. I'm going to cut it and throw it on the stick. All right, so I've been using the same set of files. So all of these are the same. The only one that's not compressed is tar. They all contain the same 5 objects or 5 items. All right, so we have 2 of these with 7Zs on them. This one allows me to view, and I can pull them out or extract everything without any questions asked. This one, on the other hand, asks me for a password right up front. And more importantly, the box is blank. It does not allow you to see what's in the box until you put in the correct password. So if I put in a bogus password or a bad password, you're obviously going to get an error. And more importantly, it's still not going to allow you to see what's in there. So this is for a little bit of privacy. Once you do put in your password though, you can view what's in there. And then you can drag them out to, well, I'll just do this one on the stick. And you can also throw that on the desktop of whatever computer that you have this stuck into. If it's the local machine, then it's the same. You can also drag that directly into these folders. But more importantly, as long as that box stays open, you can pull and extract things out of it. Is this industrial grade? No. Is this a professional tool that is not hackerable? No. It's just something part of your Thunar file manager for a little bit of, well, anonymity or privacy for home use. Okay? But it's not too bad though. You'd have to be a hacker, like I said, to open this thing up. But more importantly, it's just part of the Thunar file manager system, and more importantly, it's not too bad. All right, so this is using 7Z. So I'm going to show you one more with zip on it, because zip does offer passwords. So create archive, and we're going to use the bottom end down here if I can find it. There we go, zip. I should have brought it up in the air a little bit. What are we up to? 5, I think. All right. So I'm going to put in a password, and I'm not allowed to encrypt the file list. This does allow me to click that, but I don't have an option here. On some Linux distros on their Xfce desktops, this will be automatically grayed out. So for some reason I'm able to click that, but I can't change the byte size. But again, I'm not really going to talk about that. So I can't encrypt the file list, but I can put a password on it. So zip it is. And then we're going to do the cut and paste thing. All right, so again, all 5 boxes contain the same files. Okay, so I have 2 zips. So this one here is 38 and change, and where's the other zip? Right here. And that's also 38 and change. This one's slightly bigger than that one, but not really much to talk about. 081, 073. But there is a difference though. This will allow me to pull this out, and I can view the file immediately. Okay, so far so good. This one here will allow me to view the files, but as soon as I pull that out, it asks for a password. And if I don't put in the correct password, by all pretenses, it looks like it worked. But it says wrong password on it. And I'll do a second file to go with it. All right, now I'm going to point to these things. That says 0 bytes on it. So is that one. And then I'll open these up for you. There's nothing in here. All of these files had stuff in them. Okay, I'm going to close and reopen. This time I'm going to give it the correct password. So the exercise here is just, we're giving this a little bit of privacy. This is all we're doing here. Okay, you can now see there's text in that one, and that PDF now is viewable. Okay, Alt and F4. Okay, now you've seen several examples of this. So tar is very useful for just throwing stuff in the box in a hurry. You saw me use that on all of these files, and it was very quick to throw that 300 plus megabytes in there. All right, and then you can, of course, either think about throwing these on sticks or keeping them on the system. So as you collect these things, you know, I can sit there and cut these out. And I can pretend that I have a whole bunch of backups. And then, of course, I would probably put dates on these things. But as you're collecting stuff and you find that some of these are not useful anymore, then you start deleting them to save yourself on disk space. Okay? Now, let's talk a little bit using the same set about what is worth compressing and what maybe not. So joint photographic group, another name for that is JPEGs, are found on your, the format is found on your digital cameras and your smartphones for the camera part. So JPEGs inherently are compressed already. All right, so this is a 6.7 megabyte image. It's fairly big. So it's taken with a Sony camera. It's you can see the frame size. It's 51 by 38. It's a very large picture. I'm going to try to compress this using zip first. And then I'll do the same using another compression, using 7Z, for instance. Now, I'm going to right click, give you the properties of the actual raw image or the image itself uncompressed, and the ones that are compressed. All right, hopefully I can squeeze these on the screen without cutting anything off. 69, 69, 69. Is this worth compressing? Probably not, since a lot of our sticks and hard drives are fairly large. I would probably say no. But again, if it's part of a group, maybe. So again, this JPEG is probably not worth compressing. So in this essence, I would probably just copy that and toss that on the stick. But since I already have that nice 2779 sitting on my tar file, or tar box, I don't really need that. I can certainly just pull that out and throw it on the stick if I wanted to, or even on the computer that I'm working with. You know, JPEGs are pretty universal anyways. It doesn't matter what the OS is. Now, let me talk a little bit about selecting multiple objects and the different file types that are available to you. Selecting all 5 items, right-click, create archive. I'm going to pull this up in the air to let you see the list. It starts with period or .7z all the way down to period or .zip. That's for the whole group of files I selected. If I select the A-text by itself and do the same, I'll pull the list up in the air. This list is now longer. It has another availability below zip. It's ZST. I'll even pick it, just to give you that example. So sometimes, depending on the file types and groups you pick, you may have different options. And in essence, if you're curious about the compression, I'll just show you the difference. Again, this file is probably not worth compressing because it's fairly small. It's 5.7 kilobytes. But I did get a little bit of compression out of it, 28 versus 58. But what I'm getting at is the selection itself. You will have all of these types. And some of them are do not compress, and that would be, as I pointed out, tar does not, and there's derivatives of tar in here also. And some of them have passwords, like zip does, Word does, 7z does, and that also will encrypt the file list on 7z. You get different options. Some folks have favorites, maybe BC2, you know, whatever it might be. And sometimes you get errors depending on the file types you're trying to compress. So again, if you have never used compression itself, it's one of those things where you're just going to have to experiment a little bit. But you can't go wrong with some of the favorites if you're trying to uncompress these, say on a Microsoft machine or a Mac using zip, providing of course the stick or the external hard drive that you are using is formatted where it can be read on those machines. But there's lots of options in here is what I'm getting at, folks. So again, using the tar archive, again, is not compressed, but it is fast. But I would recommend that you throw dates on these things. So 11, 10, 23. And right click. I'm using a regular computer, by the way, standard tower computer with a standard keyboard and USB based mouse if you're curious. Not using a laptop. Okay, so I have a bunch of tars in here. Well, actually I got one zip also. Let's get rid of the zip. So you can collect a lot of these things. So I'm going to redo this, but I've already got this file here. My stuff has already 340 megabytes. So now this, if I select all of these, this will be almost double because it's going to add the extra backup. I'm just going to let you see the speed of this. All right, we'll just use Man 23 for this, for that example. Let's take a peek at it. It's 800. It's almost like gigabyte that I just threw in the box, as you can see, in less than a couple seconds. There's the byte size right there. So yes, it's a very fast method. TAR, again, is tape archive. And of course, does this fit on a USB stick? It should. That stick is 7.3 gigabytes. That's a little shy of 1 gigabyte. That will fit nicely on there. It'll take a while to transfer that onto that USB stick because it's fairly large. But you can also toss that over here. So now I got two that are TAR. My stuff and that new one. And if you find that you're running out of hard drive space, then get rid of these things. Or move them onto another hard drive or USB stick. I'm going to close the screen and say thank you for watching.